Creating a media kit is a secret weapon to getting placed as a guest on any kind of podcast you would like. The key here is we're providing context about ourselves, doing homework on behalf of the host, and showing them why we're valuable versus telling them about ourselves or hoping that they can figure that out. So what I like to do is break out these into a couple of different segments. So mine, I happen to do with a Google Drive link. I have one file that is my headshots. And I talk about this because folks, when you're going to be on a show, they are going to put together some sort of trailer or collateral from a marketing perspective. They're going to want to have pictures of yourself. So make it easy, make it proactive, throw them into a Google Drive folder so you can share this ahead of time, and the editing team's going to have that at their disposal. The other thing I like to have, if you've been on other shows or publications, is some sort of third-party credibility. I happen to throw this in a Google Doc. You can do this in I'm sure, a lot better of a way, but this is just an example of what I've done. So I put the title of the show and then a link to the specific episode that I've done on these different shows. And the beauty of that is it's broken out and people can kind of walk through here and read or listen to your different episodes. One thing I might call out, you can, if you're going to be doing shows in different industries, so maybe you talk about marketing and sales or something like that, I would make different groupings of these documents based on those specific audiences so that you can cater that message. So if it's a marketing audience, you can say, here's the shows I've been on from a marketing perspective. Now, if you're just getting started, you're not going to have any of this, and that's okay. But as you start to get episodes, throw them together so you have kind of this resume that you can go off of or portfolio that you can share ahead of time. And then once you get all of that together, the most important piece here is actually the outline. Now, the way the outline works, it's basically a doc that is sort of brain dumping what it would be like to work with you on an episode. My goal here is to basically share and make this so simple for the host that they basically, it's a no-brainer to work with me. So you can see here, one of the first things they're going to ask about is a bio. I put my entire bio here in a couple of paragraphs, really simple. I then link out all the ways that they can put links into show notes. So when someone's editing a podcast, one of the things they're going to do is figure out what to put in the show notes. Make it easy on them and just write a couple sentences on where you want to send folks and what you want to put into the show notes. Your LinkedIn, for example, your email contact information, any other links or references that you want them to mention when they're creating the show notes. From there, you want to go ahead and actually do some sample titles. Now, the reason I talk about this is because, believe it or not, one of the most challenging things as a host is trying to figure out what to name and title an episode. That's one of the first things that an audience member is going to see inside one of these podcast apps. And so you want to make it engaging and captivating. And so they'll pick their own, but it's a good best practice to just suggest some things that you've seen that worked. And this way you can kind of crystallize what you're going to be talking about with them. So I just list out a few things there. You can make as many titles as you want. Again, these are suggestions from the host. You're not telling them they have to do this. You're just trying to make it easier and come up with some ideas and make this like a brainstorming doc that you're going to do with the host. The next thing I do is add in nuggets. These are little one-sentence prompts, usually around stories or like contrarian opinions or something that I have that would be a great kind of talk track or part of an episode. So I put these in here so that a host would know if they get stuck or there's a lag or they want to elaborate on one of these topics, they can just say, so tell me about X, and they can kind of insert that little nugget that we talked about. And now I can elaborate on that for a couple of minutes. And it's a great way to have this prompt or area for the host to pull from a content perspective. And then lastly, you really want to have a framework built out with listed questions and actually sneak peeks on the answers. I've seen this work really well. The idea here is going, listen, I'm not going to tell you what to ask as a host, but I can make some suggestions that I've seen work well or I think might be captivating or engaging in a conversation. So I'll list out what those questions might be, and then I'll write a couple sentences or maybe a paragraph or two as a sneak peek on how I'm going to answer that. Now, again, some hosts are going to want to do this all on their own. They're not going to want any of your input, and that's perfectly okay. They might still want to read through this so they can kind of see that you've thought about this, that you're going to be prepared, that there's a flow and a series of resources that are going to be available for them to pull from if they get stuck. And you can kind of see how these stories progress. And so these things are really interesting. If you do a good job and put some time into this, you're basically showing them what your value is instead of just telling them, oh yeah, I'll be a really good guest, right? You're showing them exactly what you would talk about, what those stories would sound like. Here's some sneak peeks as to what I might cover. And you're giving them tactical information. Audiences in a business oriented podcast care about tactical advice. They want actionable takeaways. They want to know a story and how exactly they're going to be able to apply that into their life or into their business. And so when you can use these stories, use these sort of sneak peeks as a guide for what is coming down the line for the host, they can see how actionable that's going to be. I also drop things in here like other prompts. These are notes from me. Like, again, if they get stuck or they want to ask more kind of nuggets to pull the thread on. And I just like to drop all of those in there so that they have basically, again, just a sounding board and a set of notes in case the conversation stalls for some reason. They have a great set of resources to put together. So you put the time in, spend an hour or two, write out this doc, and you can rinse and repeat this for any podcast you want to get on. I guarantee you your host is going to be blown away by this because you put so much effort in. And all you do is you're basically just brain dumping what you're going to talk about on episodes into a written format. So it's good for you because you can be sort of fresh and know what topics you could cover. And you're going to be looking like a rock star in the eyes of the host.